us in our tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Good morning. Happy Sober Sunday. Happy Sober Sunday. It is. It's also Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. I can't believe somebody tattooed something on it. Yeah, you guys, okay. Nah, you guys, okay. Good morning, Michelle. Good to see you. Oh, Sunday, my relaxing day. Laundry day. I always do laundry on Sundays. It's just always been the day to do it. Where's my coffee? Can't do this without coffee. Which one is this one? Oh, it's some devil dude playing the drums. Not many people know this, but I do play drums. I'm all right. I keep a decent 4-beat. I'm not some like huge, big. Yeah, I'm all right. I do have stage presence though. Last time I really played, it was Saturday night at Herman's Hut. No, it was Friday night. Sorry. We're headlining. I'd been playing the drums for about 9 months. And we sucked. We were all right. We were good enough to get up on stage to entertain people a little bit, but I mean, we were a 3-piece. I wasn't. But what I did is Herman's Hideaway. You give out tickets. They make their money. They don't make their money off the door. They make their money off of the bar. And what I did is I went up to DU, which was only a couple miles away from the bar. And I just handed out tickets to pretty girls. Introduced myself. You know, so we brought a bunch of pretty girls, so they asked us back. It wasn't our music. Next time we played, the next week we played, we had a pretty big crowd again. But everybody was yelling my name, and my lead singer got really, really upset. He got really upset that the girls were all screaming my name, and yeah, they kicked me out of the band. How's that? All right. One of my stories. Yeah. My 10 minutes of rock and roll fame. I'm a mood drummer. I do not play the same song twice. I don't play it the same ever. Depends on the mood. I'm an empathy drummer. I play according to however the crowd feels or what the lead singer is doing. Because sometimes the lead singer will change things, so I'll change things up. If you ever go to my Facebook page, you'll see it says Dion Miller, and then in parentheses it says Mysticopoulos. That's my drumming name. And it means engineer of mystical cities. That's what it means. And it's because of the way I drum. I just I'm a mood dude. Anyway, I'm sure everybody wants to hear about what Dion's drumming is like. Something else to talk about before we get started. Welcome to Daily Trudge. My name is Dion. If you're here, please say hello, whether you're watching the live or the rewatch. Good stuff. Remove that from the ticker. How did I come up with the name Grassroots? It just came to me. Names come to me, right? Trudging Together. I got the name Trudge off of page 164, and somehow I just came up with Trudging Together. I don't exactly remember where I came up with Grassroots. I think it had more to do with what the type of meeting that it was. That the meeting was going back to how we used to do it. We were getting back to our roots, is probably how it came about. And from there, it was just pretty straightforward. Grassroots. It's like, everything that I do is kind of based, depends on what it is. That's an AA meeting, so it doesn't have anything to do with Daily Trudge. But the Daily Trudge, Trudging Together, the Club Trudge from Trudging Together, everything kind of goes in that thing, in that nuance, in that area, whatever you want to fucking call it. I don't know. I'm having to think too much. We were reading The Spiritual Experience today on page 567 in the big book in the 4th edition. In the 3rd edition, I'm not sure what page it's on, but I don't know anybody that has a 3rd edition big book. This came out in 2001. 4th edition came out in 2001. The 5th edition is coming out soon. Okay. And every time the new edition comes out, what changes is the stories in the back. And the stories in the back fit to more of the day of the age, right? So this next one will include like Zoom meetings, things like that. Michelle says there was a band name too. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was a band named Grassroots. That wouldn't surprise me at all. So I've been in a couple of bands. I've actually been thinking lately about pulling my drums back out and setting them up behind me there and maybe getting back to some drumming. Maybe I'll even start a band again. Spiritual experience. The term spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in this book, which upon careful reading shows that the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms. All right. So the saying kind of goes, there's as many spiritual experiences in AA as there are people. We're all going to experience it differently, but not so differently that we aren't alike. It'll be different, but not unique. All right. You'll hear your story from you won't hear your full story from one person, but you will hear your story from hundreds of different people. It varies for each of us. That's why it's important that we all share our experience. And I've been told this in the past, Dion, I listen to your stuff. It keeps me sober. And I usually bring up, okay, are you listening to other stuff? I mean, don't get me wrong. I appreciate that people love what I do, but I can't keep you sober. It's going to have to be a variance of different things. That's why I always want people to share their experience here, because it's going to be different. You need to hear it. You need to, so that way so I challenge you to listen to other things too. I don't really listen to podcasts. I'm a creator, but I ain't a listener. I go a shit ton of meetings, man. And I'm going to tell you, it's hard for me to listen to podcasts because all I hear, it's my own bullshit. Let's just call it what it is. It's my own bullshit. But yeah. So it manifested itself among us in many different forms. Yet it is true that our first printing gave many readers the impression that these personality changes or religious experience must be in the nature of sudden and spectacular upheavals. Happily for everyone, this conclusion is erroneous. That means it's not true. Right. So, in the beginning, or in the book, in the beginning, there was light. No. But, I think God kind of decides whether you're going to have a sudden spiritual experience or an educational variety. 90% of the people I've met have an educational variety. I have met people where it has happened suddenly. I'm going to tell you now, it doesn't matter whether it's done suddenly or whether your experience is of the educational variety, you still got to do the work. Okay, God is not going to render us white as snow without our effort. It can't happen. Right? So it doesn't matter which way it happens. You have to put in the effort. Oh, I've been blessed. God has changed me. Not yet. So see, whether it doesn't matter whether the spiritual experience really happens. What matters, we all got to do the work. Some people are already open and willing to receive what it is that God has to give them, but not all of us are. I wasn't. Took a little bit of time, but in the beginning, when it happened to Bill, right? Because in the beginning of the book, the first story is Bill's story, and he has a sudden upheaval of ideals and emotions, displacements of ethics, right? And it happened very fast for him. In fact, he went through the steps in a matter of days. It took me months, right? But he did it. But it needed to happen. God made that decision. AA was divinely created. It was created divinely. That means it was created by God. Couldn't have happened any other way. See, AA came about in pure perfection. If Ebby would not have gone to court to get, but if Ebby didn't get in trouble, we wouldn't be here. If Bill wouldn't have met Ebby in the armed forces, we wouldn't be here. If Bill's parents didn't leave him and leave him with his grandparents, we wouldn't be here. If Bill wouldn't have met Bob. See, Bill was getting ready to drink. He was in Akron, Ohio. He was getting ready to drink because his business fell through. You know how he was going to pay his board. And, he seemed to have enough money for alcohol, though. Weird. And he had a decision to make. He could either walk into that bar that he was hearing at the hotel, or he could look over to the church directory, which is what happened. But he almost went into the bar. If he would have went into that bar, we would not be here. Divinely inspired. All right. A little bit of history. History. In the first few chapters, a number of sudden revolutionary changes are described. Though it was not our intention to create such an impression, many alcoholics have nevertheless concluded that in order to recover, they must acquire an immediate and overwhelming God consciousness, followed at once by a vast change of feeling and outlook. It's weird. I didn't catch that the first time I went through. I didn't think that. I think they just had to write that because there were a lot of people that are probably more intelligent than me that were looking for loopholes. They were looking for loopholes, looking for the way to complain. That's where it came from. That's where it came from. How do I know that? Because Bill was a salesperson. And what you do is your rebuttals you put in your sales pitch, and this is a sales pitch. So, yep. That was just a rebuttal. They did it pretty nice, I think. That's my opinion only, of course. But kind of makes it look like that, right? Well, once by a vast change, right? It does happen. Still happens. I don't know why. I don't know how. I'm not going to try and figure it out either. It's not for me to figure out. If I could figure it out, it wouldn't be bigger than me, right? Some things must remain a mystery. Among our rapidly growing membership of thousands of alcoholics, such transformations, though frequent, are by no means the rule. Most of our experiences are what the psychologist William James calls the educational variety because they develop slowly over a period of time. That's where I got mine. My spiritual experience was of the educational variety, and the spiritual experience that we are talking about here is usually your first one. The obsession of alcohol is relieved, and you suddenly see that some of the promises start coming through. Some of the third step promises, some of the 9-step promises start coming true. That you start to feel useful again, that you can see the world in a different view. These are spiritual experiences. Okay. You do not get one spiritual experience. It's not one and done. I have spiritual experiences every single day. It is now a choice on whether or not I want to see those spiritual experiences. And that is based upon my spiritual condition each day. But they don't stop. But the first one is pretty big. Why? Because it's new. You haven't experienced it before. But usually the first one is the obsession of alcohol is lifted. One day you'll just be neutral to alcohol. No. To have a host of friends. To not live in fear and anger and worry and remorse and shame and blame and guilt and to be free to do what it is that you need to do in this world. Your spiritual experience may even be different than that. Who knows? It's yours. Be selfish about your spiritual experience. William James, he wrote a book called Varieties of Spiritual Experiences. Actually, I think it's of religious experiences. No, I've never read it. Quite often, friends of the newcomer are aware of the difference long before he is himself. You're not going to see the change in you like other people are going to see the change in you. And this is where I usually bring up, if you see change in somebody else, tell them. We call that encouragement. Something that's lacking a little bit from AA, I think. Oh man, I had a slip this weekend and you came back. That's progress. Good job. Good job. You came back. That's not, you wouldn't have done that before. So what do we call that? Well, we call it progress. Maybe they're having a hard day, a little bit over 30 days, but they don't realize the changes they've already made in their life. Well, let's bring that up to them. Bring it up to him. He finally realizes that he has undergone a profound alteration in his reaction to life. In other words, he's taking a little bit more time to think about what he's doing. He's taking other people into consideration. That's one of the biggest things in the world. When we start taking other people into consideration with what our actions are doing. Because now we understand that our actions affect everyone around us. Yes, they do. And those other people partly allow it. Yes, I know that. I get it. It's okay. What often takes place in a few months could seldom have been accomplished by years of self-discipline. AA will do for you in a matter of months what other things will take years and years and years to do. We make it the miraculous turnaround that I see of people in 30, 60, 90 days is phenomenal, man. It is so neat to watch. To watch somebody new come into the program, reclaim their lives, and then you watch the lights turn on. There's nothing better in this world than watching somebody else reclaim their life, man. It's beautiful to watch. And what's even better, no, we're not claiming anything, but at least we got to be a little bit of a part of it. Isn't that neat? Maybe they followed your example. Maybe they, maybe you said something that made it easier for them to understand, what everybody in the meeting is talking about. Because in the beginning, AA can be kind of confusing. So, with few exceptions, our members find they have tapped an unsuspecting inner resource, which they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves. Morning, Chris. It's good to see you, brother. Yeah, absolutely. AA is good. I love this because they tap an inner resource. See, you had it all along. I believe that God lives within us. That's my belief. Wasn't always my belief. But I tell you now, it's one spiritual experience after another. It's hard for me not to think it isn't. Because I don't feel it outside, I feel it inside. Well, if God is a spirit and I'm a spiritual being, there's got to be some kind of connection. And he certainly doesn't talk straight to me, so it's usually an intuition, an emotional feeling, right? Most of us think this awareness of a power greater than ourselves is the essence of a spiritual experience. Our more religious members call it God consciousness. I am not religious, and I call it God consciousness. But I'm not religious. Sure, I have a conscious contact with God. He still doesn't talk directly to me. He talks to his children. Yep. Most emphatically, we wish to say that any alcoholic capable of honestly facing his problems in the light of our experience can recover, provided he does not close his mind to all spiritual concepts. He can only be defeated by an attitude of intolerance or belligerent denial. I am the only person in this world that can cut off the sunlight of the spirit to me. There is no person, place, thing, or circumstance out there that can cut it off from me. It is entirely my decision. And if I am deciding to be intolerant or belligerent about what is going on, about bringing on a higher power, I am the one that will suffer. What does Dr. Bob say? He says, if you can't find a higher power that works for you, I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for you. We find that no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of recovery, but these are indispensable. Means they can't run out. You cannot run out of these things. Why? Because they reside inside, man. They're just feelings. These are non-actions, so it can't run out. Non-actions can never run out. Okay? But willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness, they do not require any physical effort on my part, mental effort, emotional effort. I am going to need to put in a little bit of spiritual effort, though. All right? So they're indispensable. Willingness is used for everything. Yeah. There's a principle, which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation. We sure see that a lot now, don't we? People just assuming what things are without taking an actual look at them. A good example is that people are saying that the 988 number is no longer usable, and to call and it's just not true. Gotta be careful what we post, what we put out, what comes out of our mouth. Got to do a little bit of research. Take a look at things. I read that. It took me less than 10 seconds to figure out it wasn't true. Literally, it took me 10 seconds. I can't assume what is going on in this world. I can't assume. Assuming makes an ass out of me every time. A belligerent denial, contempt prior to investigation. It means I assumed that I knew. Never assume, always presume, but never assume. I think it's funny because they're like, don't assume it makes an ass out of you and me. I didn't assume. So don't include me in your assery. All right, that's going to be it for this one. I appreciate everybody being here. It's always good to see you. I love you. You know I do. Peace out.